No, what I want to get on record though is about the Celtic fans, because there's a lot of mixed discourse in the comments about this. This one here, if I start with this one, um, if I can find it. Here it is. Wilkinson, Celtic fan in my mid-60s, and I've lived through some very good and some pretty tough times, but never have ever questioned remaining a fan until last night. That is when so-called fans shamed the club. And then Marzuno comes back saying, unless you get back from Dundee at 2 a.m. last night and got for work at 6 a.m., don't tell the fans what to say, which I understand. But look, Keith, I don't know what you thought, but I thought the fans last night were really poor. I don't think Wilfried Nancy is going to work out, and I'll maybe explain a little bit more why I think that. But even so, Nancy get to F, at the end of
Yeah.
the game. A guy who's been here a fortnight, he's a human being. And you look at the viciousness in some of the fans' faces there towards the board. I mean, it just all seems a bit much to me, a bit too intense.
Listen, it's gone nuts. It's going nuts. And yeah, I think that the I found that embarrassing
Aye.
for Celtic, and they pride themselves on being the greatest supporters in the world. That they're turning in on themselves now. The treatment of Peter Lawwell, I can't quite get my head around. I understand it. I'm not an idiot, right? So I understand that he's the poster boy for the board. They're angry at the board. I get all the politics, right? But come on, there needs to be a little bit of decorum here.
Yeah.
Celtic fans pride themselves on the image that they've created for themselves. That was embarrassing. There's a guy that's walked into this. By the way, rightly, wrongly, good appointment, bad appointment, whatever it turns out to be in the fullness of time, he's walked into a raging civil war, and he doesn't really. You can see he doesn't have a grasp for what's going on around him. He's, as I said, I think nice guy, wrong movie,
Mm-hmm.
wrong place, wrong time. That is probably all very true. But when the cameras panned in on him, and he could hear to a man the Celtic support, it sounded pretty much like to a man, um, chanting that at him, with real gusto and passion and
Yeah.
feeling
Yeah.
and anger. The camera panned in on him. He looked almost like a broken man, Daniel.
As most people would. I mean, it was brutal.
Yeah, and I do think, as I said in the piece that I wrote, I think, unfortunately for Wilfried Nancy, I think he's got a bit of a soft centre in terms of, he's not from this world. I'm not sure he belongs in this world. He had his success in the MLS. I tell you something about the MLS: win, lose, draw, doesn't matter. Out in the car park after the game, have a hot dog, a barbecue, a cold Budweiser, whatever. That's the background of the MLS. Here, drop 2 points. You don't want to go into the car park because there's metal sharks getting thrown about the place. This is craziness, and I'm not sure that he was really properly prepared for it. As I said to you, when he's been speaking in press conferences, he seems like an emotionally intelligent guy who refers quite a lot to the messages of support that he's had from friends and family, that he's been using like a bit of a crux to get through this period. He's mentioned his mum. He's mentioned the bags under his eyes. He mentions that he struggles to sleep when a result goes against him. He's in another world right now.
Yeah.
And I think it's a world of pain. And I think, a lot of guys, especially this part of the world, football's football. You've got to take a bit, give it out, take it back, and all that. He just looked like a shell of a man there, and I felt for him. I felt for him. And this is 4 games in. And even the other day down at Lennoxtown, he was talking about he's actually quite nervous about, he's picking up his new club car. I think today he's picking it up, or yesterday, whenever it was, and he's kind of scared about the driving on the opposite side of the road and all. So you can tell he's, as I said, emotionally intelligent, and maybe too much so. Maybe you need a thicker skin. I don't know, but how can any guy stand there and take that when he's desperate, clearly desperate to do well, clearly desperate to win over the hearts and minds of these Celtic fans, and he's getting that. and what and also as you're standing there and you're listening to that and the vitriol and the anger behind it, you're probably also thinking in the back of your head somewhere, I don't know how you fix this.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like this in my life. How you fix this? And it got Russell Martin and Rangers fans got to the exact same place, just nowhere near as quickly.
Became so
uh,
toxic.
was that? Yeah, it just became that was going to be the chant every time, and it got really bruising. The whole Russell Martin thing was really unedifying as well before the end. And then eventually it kind of reached such a crescendo. There was no way of ignoring it or carrying on. And maybe the Celtic fans are hoping if they accelerate this, then they get to the Russell Martin point quicker than Rangers did.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I use that word there, unedifying. Everything about this is unedifying right now. It's a really bad. There's a bad look for everywhere you look. There's a bad look in the boardroom because they've made their absolute backside of it. Let's get it right over the last 12 months or so, right?
No, I
And
think
a
so now.
lot blame and accountability lies there. And the appointment of Paul Tisdale, where did that come from? Who thought of that? Where did the very idea come from that a guy with such limited CV, and this is something we've been talking about over the city at Rangers. This guy with no real track record to speak of is thrown into this situation where he's the kingmaker at Celtic Park. How did
It's
that happen?
bizarre, that, Keith. It's so
How did
bizarre.
that happen?
The
And
ex-City manager is calling the
yeah,
shots at Celtic. I mean, how did that happen?
yeah, it's the same as Kevin Thelwell getting a similar sort of gig in at Rangers. You're getting people that are walking in and out the buildings here that haven't got a clue what they're actually meant to be doing here. And that manifests itself in situations like this, where you've now got Wilfried Nancy and, of course, his assistant who worked with Paul Tisdale at Exeter. Was that the credentials on which this appointment was made? Because Paul Tisdale knows his right-hand man? I mean, there's so much that, the players, are they performing to anywhere near the level they should be? No. The Brendan Rodgers scenario, was that well handled? That was a disgrace. Everything about it was a disgrace. Dermot Desmond's behaviour, erratic to the point that it looked as if he'd written that statement at 1:00. It's crazy. The whole situation around Celtic, and the most incredible part of it all is that it's all self-inflicted. It's not as if somebody's came in here and got inside the thing and are trying to cause damage for the inside. This is all Celtic's making, and for no reason at all. They weren't even really under that much pressure. They were sauntering away with one league title after the next. They've been in total command of the domestic scene in this country for the best part of 2 decades, more. And now they've got themselves into this state that I just don't know how to get themselves out of it. And bad looks, Wilfried Nancy, yes, some of the things he's been saying, the tactics that he's deploying, and if you're going to strip it right back, and I like the guy, and I would like to see it turn a corner here and get out of this. I'm not sure that can happen, but it's certainly not going to happen if you're going to go to a place like Tannadice, and rather than maybe look at your own system and maybe the flaws that lie within it and do something about fixing it. He's actually doubled down a little bit there, hasn't he? With that team selection last night, the
Yeah.
fact that he's saying, "No, listen, I don't care if you like it or not. In fact, I tell you what, never mind 2 centre backs. I'll just go with 1 centre back
One
at this
centre
game."
back.
So you go to Tannadice with 1 centre half. If you go to Tannadice with 1 centre half, then expect everything that you get, and they got it in that second half.